This recorded session is dedicated to um, our concepts, our fundamental concepts on the module for introduction to parasitology. This is we're beginning the second half of our course. We will now focus on microbial and multicellular pathogens that can cause human infections, and they are all to characteristically um, showing the lifestyle or manifesting a parasitic lifestyle. Okay. So in this session, I will talk about key concepts, terminologies that you would need to be familiar with as we proceed with discussing different groups of medically significant parasites. Okay. Now, to begin our discussion, um, let me cover let me cover the topic of symbiosis. Symbiosis is living together of unlike organisms. Unlike in the sense that they do not belong within the same taxonomic grouping. Let's say a human being with um, uh, cohabitating with bacteria that are found in their gut, so gastrointestinal bacteria that are considered commensals of humans. Another good example would be um, in the environment. An example that's not more medically related is the symbiosis between a barnacle or barnacles and a turtle. No? So barnacles living on the carapace, attached on the carapace of turtles. Okay, so this concept is an important springboard as we discuss more about the technicalities of the parasitic lifestyle, the parasitic lifestyle that uh, medically significant parasites demonstrate. So under symbiosis, there are different types according to whether both organisms benefit from living together, or one is benefited, the other is not, or one is benefited and the other is harmed. Okay, so let's cover these subtypes of symbiosis. So we have commensalism. Good example or an example I've already mentioned are bacteria in our gut. Okay, actually, I would say, yeah, for the I guess for the to qualify further, bacteria in our gut that do not synthesize byproducts that we utilize, but we provide them a shelter, we provide them nutrients through the food that we eat. No? So, as an operational discussion or definition, commensalism is a symbiosis in which two species live together and one species benefits from the relationship without harming or benefiting the other, or having a neutral interaction with the species that it benefits from. So an example of this is the protozoan. Another example is the protozoan Entamoeba coli. Can be found in the intestinal lumen of vertebrates. So the protozoan gets nutrients from the food that passes through the GIT, of the vertebrate symbiote. Okay. Second type of symbiosis we have is mutualism, when two organisms cohabitate, live together, and are mutually benefited from each other. So, an example of this is bacteria in the human gut that synthesize vitamins like riboflavins, and they get nutrition from us. They get nutrition from the food that we eat. Another example are termites and flagellates. So termites are multicellular invertebrates. They're insects that consume wood, plant material. In their gut, flagellates of different species are found. Okay, so in this example, both parties provide benefit to one another. Okay, flagellates aid in the breakdown of ingested plant or wood material of the termite of the termite symbiont through the secretion of cellulase enzyme that can break down cellulose. And the third example, which is the highlight of our final term, is a parasitic lifestyle, a parasitic symbiosis. When the symbiotic relationship, the in which, no, in the symbiotic relationship, the parasite which lives in or on another species will depend on the latter for its survival, and during the process, the latter or the host, which is depended upon, actually is harmed. So an example would be every medically significant parasites that we will cover for the entire final term, and just a specific one for the benefit or to illustrate the concept. Right now, we have Entamoeba histolytica. So Entamoeba histolytica, also a protozoan, derives its nutrition from its human host. And during the process or during its life cycle inside the host, it can cause amoebiasis or amoebic dysentery, because as it stays in the host, it can disrupt the balance of the gastrointestinal tract. No? Its invasion, or its event, if it's allowed to invade, or if it's capacitated to invade the host tissues through its adherence, toxic factors, colonizing factors, it can cause damage or harm to humans. Okay? Parasitology, in comparison to microbiology, bacteriology, mycology, or virology, is concerned with the phenomenon of this dependence, no? This dependence that I am talking about, right? So, unlike the other types of microbial pathogenic groups, so bona fide parasites, it is a qualifier for them to really cause harm to their hosts, to the humans, as they proceed with their life cycle inside or on the human body. Okay? And medical parasitology is a subset of the science that concerns primarily with human parasites and how they affect an individual human, how they also affect specific communities, populations across different parts of the globe. No? So in relation to what I just said, no, the study of parasitology is tightly connected with tropical medicine. Okay, um, emergence and distribution of human parasites relates with anthropogenic activities that happen in the last 600 years, no? 1500s onwards. The spread of human parasites um, is enhanced or is actually triggered by human travel, and also the migration of human travel, migration of humans from one place to another. You know. Also, our activities such as rearing of domesticated animals, as these animals possess their own parasites, and as we practice livestock rearing or poultry rearing, and parasites of these animals found their way to be specific or to be capable of also parasitizing the human body. Okay. All right. Now more terms to cover. Let's proceed with the different types of parasites. So in general, we have two major types based on location. So we have endoparasites and ectoparasites. Endoparasites live inside the body of the host. The prefix endo, in. Ectoparasites, on the other hand, are those that live outside the human body, outside the host's body. So they live on the host. Ecto meaning out. So a good example are to illustrate these two types of parasites based on their location on the host's body. Endoparasites such as gastrointestinal protozoans, entamoeba, giardia, they live or they are transmitted via the enteric route, oral route. So, and their habitat or their tissue of choice is the intestinal lumen. Okay, so they're found inside us. Ectoparasites naman, a good example is the human louse, the human lice. Okay. So we have um, human lice that reproduce, stay on the scalp for the capitis type of pediculus. There are also body louse. They stay on the surface of the body, specific locations, especially those that are hidden or more not usually exposed, like genital area is a good example. So those are ectoparasites. Okay. Then another type, but now in relation to a different aspect, is erratic. Erratic parasites is when a parasite is found in an organ which is not its usual tissue or organ of choice. So you can relate erratic parasites or liken it to when your specific bacteria or fungi that have target their tissue or organ of choice begin wide distribution in the human body. So that's an erratic parasite. Okay. Now we have the term obligate and facultative. Okay, so these two terms go hand in hand. Obligate parasites are parasites that require a host. Without a host, they won't continue or they will not be able to continue their life cycle, their maturation, and they will die. Okay? Facultative parasites, on the other hand, explore two extremes. whether they are either that they are found uh, as free living organisms outside their host, mostly in the environment. As free living state, they are not able to cause dramatic sequelae because number one, they are not inside a host, so they're not on a host. Okay, and they survive even if they stay in that state for extended periods. While another extreme that they explore is when there is a need for them to replicate, in most cases, more often than not, for them to replicate, no, they will require parasitizing their hosts. Okay, so it's facultative parasite. Now we also have the term accidental or incidental, a parasite that establishes its host, or I mean itself, in a host where it does not usually live or where it does not usually thrive in. It's accidental. So if your tapeworm is specific to domesticated pigs, but eventually they found their way or they became successful in establishing themselves in the human host, so that pig tapeworm is can be considered as an incidental or accidental parasite. Okay, right. Now, in terms of uh, duration, okay, so we have different duration of their stay inside their host. So we have the terms permanent parasite, temporary, and we also have spurious. So let's define them. Permanent parasites are parasites that remain on or in the body of their host for their entire lifetime. Permanent, so it's always there, always with the host or on the host. Okay? Temporary lives only on the host or in the host for a short period of time. Okay? So the good illustrative example for temporary parasites are the ectoparasites. Okay? And you may also think or conceptualize those parasites, endoparasites within the host, inside the gut or internally, found in internal organs, to be considered, you may consider them temporary also, depending on your frame of thinking. But as an illustrative example, I'd like you to zoom in to the example of ectoparasites, since it's very obvious that they do not really stay with the human body for a very long period of time. So, unless the parasite develops this state of permanency inside the host and the dependence or the disruption of this permanent symbiosis happens, no, the parasite dies. So I guess that's an important qualifier to remember. So permanent parasites will really depend on their host for their entire life. Okay? Then we have spurious parasites, which are free living organisms, can pass through the digestive tract without infecting the host. So these are your relatives of medically significant multicellular and unicellular protozoans that do not have the capacity to parasitize the human body. Uh, prim- um, Primarily, or can be rooted from different things, or there could be multiple reasons behind that. Either that they don't have specific factors, or they don't express factors, proteins, enzymes, adherence elements, invasion factors that can specifically make the human body susceptible to their attack. Okay, so those that are non-human specific parasites. Okay, then oh, so the slide is a duplicate. This one is a duplicate of the previous one. Okay, so yeah, I think that's all for the different types of parasites according to their anatomic location, according to their discrete need for a host, and their permanency, yeah, with or on the host. Okay. Now let's talk about the different types of hosts. So we have two terms I'd like to emphasize: definitive or final host and intermediate host. Okay. So definitive host is the host of the parasite where it attains sexual maturity, meaning it is able to produce cells, or it's able to carry out sexual reproduction, while after staying or after being intimately associated with its final or definitive host. An intermediate host, on the other hand, is where the parasite, or is the host where the parasite undergoes its larval stages, stages before its sexual maturity. Okay, now so these two terms relate with the maturity of the parasite, or what level of maturity the parasite achieves as it is found, or as it is associated with the host. Now we also have the term or the type of host called paratenic. So these hosts are hosts in which the parasite does not develop further to later stages, but is or allows or is enabled to stay alive and can still infect other hosts. So you can think of a paratenic host as a host, a shelter, where the parasite might sort of remains inactive, but still is living, and still can be capable of infecting another individual, another host, as a different host, once it is shed to the environment. Okay. Then we also have reservoir hosts. Reservoir hosts allow the parasite's life cycle to continue and become additional sources of human infection. Okay. So reservoir hosts are hosts that relate with the concept of the concept of a parasite being not specific only to having a to having one host. In parasites that um, uh, are able to infect different types of species. No? For example, the protozoan Balantidium coli. So Balantidium coli, it is non-specific in the sense that it can also affect not only humans but also other vertebrate hosts like pigs. No? So Balantidium coli can be acquired by humans and, let's say, pigs, and acquisition is through an enteric oral route, no, ingestion of contaminated food or water, and then the pig host, if not treated, no, not managed, the protozoan parasite can stay with it, okay, and it will serve as its, or the pig will serve as its reservoir host, okay, and then eventually shedding of B. coli by the pig reservoir, the pig host into the environment, eggs or cysts of B. coli in soil can seep through water sources, and if unhealthy, unhygienic practices are, I don't know, if unhygienic practices are carried out, or the individual is not, or the human is not, ano, no, uh, uh, the human living proximal to pigs that are infected by B. coli. They practice and they have unhygienic practices, unsanitary practices. The cysts of B. coli can find its way to the water source, food that is ingested by the individual. So it's an illustrative example of reservoir hosts. Okay. Then we have, to illustrate an example, or to have an example for definitive and intermediate hosts. So the one I have provided in the handout is, um, do I have an example here? Yeah, sarcocystis, I think, is the example that I have. Wait, no, no, no. Um, yeah. So S hominis, no? Okay. So yeah, as an example, in the handout, take note of the illustration. So the domesticated cattle, pigs, can serve as the intermediate hosts of S hominis or S hominis, no? Sarcocysts can mature in the muscle of the domesticated animal. Um, then, if the individual, the human, eats the meat without properly cooking it, okay, so there's the infective stage to humans is the sarcocysts that are within the livestock meat. No? If the meat is not properly cooked, yan, humans will may get infected by that parasite. And within the human body, it undergoes its sexual maturation stage or cycle. So in the human body, particularly in the small intestine, no? S. hominis or S. hominis can carry out its sexual maturation. Okay. Now we have vectors, which are in the ano no in the context of medical parasitology. Vectors have a specific qualification. So in some way, no, you can consider them hosts by their own right, no? Okay, but in the context of medical parasitology, so vectors are transmission agents, no? Parasite transmission agents responsible for the spread or transmission of the parasite from one host to another, through by carrying them, within their body. I've heard the case of mosquitoes, no, which are the classical example of biologic vectors. And there are also mechanical or poretic vectors, vectors of parasites where the parasite does not um, carry out any significant development on it. The only function of a mechanical or a phoretic vector is to transmit the parasite. And the biological vectors, on the other hand, transmits the parasite after completion of its development in the host. So I have examples here. And so fly picks up pathogen from fecal matter and carries it on its body. Fly transfers the pathogen to food. Person eats the contaminated food and can be parasitized later on. So this is an example of a phoretic vector. So on the other hand, this one, infected mosquito bites uninfected person. Infection spreads through the body into the blood cells. Okay, so like for the case of plasmodial parasites. Then second, mosquito bites infected person. Mosquito may now transmit infection to another host. Okay, once provided that that second mosquito acquires infective stage produced by the parasite inside the human body. Okay. Right. So now we completed discussing, introducing the concepts of different types of parasite hosts, parasite vectors. Let's now talk about the transmission routes that are general to the classically important or not classically but most medically important parasites. Um, we have oral enteric, the most common via the ingestion of contaminated food and water. It's the most common source of infection. Parasites that can be transferred via the oral route include the following. So we have Taenia, Taenia solium, genata, Diphyllobothrium, okay, Entamoeba, protozoans Entamoeba and Giardia, the worms Clonorchis, Opistorchis, Haplorchis. So their eggs can be transmitted via the enteric route, contaminating food or water, and then we ingest them. Okay. Another mode of transmission is skin penetration. So for this case, the parasite has the ability to burrow into intact skin. So some examples include hookworms, Strongyloides, Schistosoma. Okay, these are multicellular worms. For a case of Schistosoma, it enters via water. So if you're swimming, okay, you might acquire Schistosoma if the environment is infested by it. Okay. Then we have arthropod bites as another example of transmission route. Diseases such as malaria, filariasis, leishmaniasis, trypanosomiasis, and babesiosis. So most of these are actually protozoal, no? Protozoal diseases, so. They have specific vectors, mosquito vectors. Okay. Congenital transmission is also a potential route for parasite transfer. In case of Toxoplasma gondii, no, an infected mother may be able to pass the parasite to the newborn or to the infant. So you have the phenomenon of congenital toxoplasmosis, as the parasites can actually cross the mother baby barrier, placenta. And that's the case, or if that happens, and the infant is, of course, relative to an adult, an infant is immuno naive, so the possibility of the infection being aggravated or manifesting in full blown or in full is highly likely. Okay. Then transmammary transmission, also possible. So via breastfeeding. So example of this parasites are Ancylostoma and Strongyloides. Okay. Another route for transmission is pulmonary or inhalation via inhalation. So Enterobius vermicularis, common pinworm, okay? The eggs of this parasite species can be inhaled by the host, and then that can allow for the parasite to establish itself inside the body of the host. Sexual transmission is also a route, no? Well, Trichomonas vaginalis is an example. This is a protozoal parasite. No? It's a flagellate, um, and it can be transmitted via sexual intercourse, via sex. Okay, right. Now, just a review of our, actually, I have it here. It's not mentioning. Anyway, okay, so in relation to public health, okay, so we have different terms that we also apply in parasitology. So epidemiology, similar with how we understand it in our midterm, okay, where we look at patterns, distribution, and occurrence of the disease caused by the pathogen. And we have the concepts of incidence and prevalence, a review. So incidents are, again, just to echo what we know about it. So incidence refers to new cases of the disease, of the parasitic disease, on a population over a specific period of time. Prevalence is the part or proportion of the population with the disease or condition, the parasitic with the parasitic disease or condition in a specific point in time. It's point prevalence, or a period of time, specified period of time. It's period prevalence. Okay. So particular to parasitology, we are introducing the term burden, infection burden, no, or worm burden. Okay, intensity of infection or worm burden refers to burden of infection related to the number of the worms that are found in an infected individual. Okay, so worm burden, so we express it as the number of worms found in an infected child or infected person. Okay. Then we have morbidity, mortality. So morbidity is the state of having a specific illness or condition, while mortality, of course, refers to death. No, the number of deaths in a certain group, a certain population over a specific period of time. Okay. Now more terms related to or specific to parasitology. So we have deworming. Okay. Deworming is the use of anti-helminthic, anti-worm drugs in an individual, or like one-on-one, or a case management approach, or a case management example, or of course, as a public health program. Deworming can be uh, uh, done, no? Usually done siya in elementary school children. Okay? Then we have two more terms related to disease management or parasitic disease management. We have eradication and elimination. Eradication is the permanent reduction of the parasitic disease's worldwide incidence to zero. It's eradication. Okay? Elimination, on the other hand, is a more local term. It refers to reduction of the parasitic disease incidence to zero in a defined geographical area or location. So, to illustrate this, we let's consider the statement. um, let's consider the hypothetical statement that we already eliminated malaria in Cavite. Okay? So, meaning there's no malaria in Cavite. But that does not equate to the absence of the disease, the parasitic disease, in different parts of the Philippines. Actually, that's not a. I'm not. Yeah, it's hypothetical in the sense that, or by virtue of the fact that I believe we really have no incidences of or no incidents or health stats on malaria here in Cavite. That's an example of elimination, parasitic disease elimination. Then we have eradication. Okay, so um, consider the statement. We have eradicated polio worldwide. So, so that means the incidence of the disease is not existing globally. The polio is of course a different example. It's not really uh, it's not really 100% in context of the mojo, no? Since we're talking about parasites now. Okay. All right. Now, with regards to frequency of the parasite, its presence, vis-a-vis the geographic area, no, it's the nature of its presence in a geographic area. We have the following terms: sporadic, endemic, epidemic, and pandemic. So sporadic, a parasitic disease that occurs infrequently, irregularly, so does not show definite trend or definite distribution or occurrence patterns. Endemic refers to the constant presence or prevalence of the parasitic disease or the infectious disease agent causing it, the parasite causing it, in the population within a geographic area. So endemic, there is a stable pool of parasites within a geographic area, resulting to health stats. So, or I mean, resulting to translatable health statistics. People with the parasitic infection caused by that agent. Okay. And then we have epidemic, refers to an increase, often out of the blue or all of a sudden increase in the number of cases of a disease. The increase is pegged against the baseline, which is we what is normally expected in terms of in terms of all factors being considered constant. So an epidemic is when there is sharp increase in the cases of the parasitic disease when compared to historical data points or historical instances. Then we have pandemic, refers to an epidemic that has spread over continents, over several countries, the entire globe. Okay? It's pandemic. Let's have some illustration. Okay? So let us appreciate the terms endemic, sporadic, epidemic, and pandemic. Sporadic, so episodal, okay? Infrequent occurrence. Endemic, happening, no? In the entire geographical location. Entire population is susceptible to it. Okay, a parasite is distributed throughout the geographic location. Epidemic is when you have your sudden increase of your cases, parasitic disease cases, relative to historical instances ng pandemic, okay, factor of cross-continental spread, cross-continental occurrence of the parasitic infection. Okay. Now, I believe I already um, I have been recording for 30 minutes or more. So I will stop the recording here. This will be part one of our module introduction on parasitology. And the next one, I guess, will just be less than 20 minutes or 20 minutes max.